Disseminating dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar, 1 o'clock in Porto Novo. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world. We are live on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. ECOWAS delegation forced to flee Guinea-Bissau amid political tensions. Ghana's national economic dialogue begins today with focus on charting a path for economic sustainability and growth.
We are out of the external market. We are out of the long-term domestic market. That is where our focus is supposed to be, to repair the domestic debt market so that we can begin to be issuing a longer-term instrument. And that should be the focus of the president and his finance minister.
And Malian government tightens mining regulations amid Rex. Laurent Gbagbo rally supporters vows to address land crisis in Côte d'Ivoire.
There are land issues in Côte d'Ivoire today. Serious land disputes. You find a piece of land and 5 different people have documents claiming ownership.
Details of these stories and more coming up shortly. Stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast and a warm welcome to our listeners in the Gambia, Ghana, and Liberia. Newslink begins in Guinea-Bissau as a high-level ECOWAS delegation was compelled to leave Guinea-Bissau abruptly on the 9th of March 2025, following direct threat from President Umaru Sissoco Embalo. This was disclosed in a statement issued by ECOWAS. The delegation had been facilitating negotiations in the country's 2025 election, with a draft agreement nearing completion when tensions escalated, forcing their premature departure. Emo Edet has more in this report.
In a press release signed by Ambassador Bagudu Hesse and dated March 1, 2025, the joint ECOWAS-UNOWAS mission confirmed it was expelled under these circumstances. The statement indicated that the delegation left Bissau at dawn on March 1 after President Embalo threatened to expel them, marking an escalation in political tensions. The expulsion comes at a particularly delicate time. On February 23, in the presence of the international delegation, President Embalo unilaterally set the presidential election for November 30, 2025, insisting he would remain in power until his successor's inauguration. This stance directly clashes with the opposition, which demands his departure by February 27, 2025, marking the anniversary of his inauguration. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court has set the end of his mandate for September 4, 2025. Despite the abrupt departure, the ECOWAS-UNOWAS statement noted that significant progress had been made towards a political agreement. The mission stated that it had drawn up a draft electoral timetable and had begun presenting it to political actors for their input. Calling for calm, the delegation urged all parties and citizens to maintain peace and stability, emphasizing the growing international concern over the unfolding political crisis in Guinea-Bissau.
Imoedet reporting. Ghana's National Economic Dialogue opens today, Monday, March 3, 2025 in Accra, bringing together key stakeholders to address the country's economic challenges and chart a path for sustainable development. The 2-day forum will feature President Mahama giving the keynote address. According to the government, the dialogue is a crucial step in shaping the 4-year fiscal consolidation program aimed at restoring economic stability and driving long-term development. There is more in this report by Nadi Detete in Accra.
Ghana's much-anticipated National Economic Dialogue is taking place in Accra, bringing together government officials, economic experts, business leaders, and civil society groups to deliberate on the country's economic future. Led by President John Dramani Mahama, the forum is themed Resetting Ghana, Building the Economy We Want Together. Discussions will focus on critical economic issues such as ensuring macroeconomic stability, which is key to restoring investor confidence and fostering long-term growth. Participants will also explore ways to promote economic transformation, shifting from dependence on primary commodities to a more diversified and resilient economy. The dialogue will also address the need for structural reforms to enhance economic governance and create an enabling environment for investment. Additionally, the forum will examine strategies for encouraging private sector-led growth, recognizing that a strong private sector is essential for job creation and economic expansion. Lastly, discussions will highlight the importance of restoring good governance and tackling corruption, as transparency and accountability are fundamental to building a stable and prosperous economy. Professor John Gachi, a member of the Forum's Planning Committee, has emphasized the importance of this dialogue in shaping Ghana's economic trajectory.
Now we are out of the external market, we are out of the long-term domestic market. That is where our focus is supposed to be, to repair the domestic debt market so that we can begin to be issuing a longer-term instrument. And that should be the focus of the President and his finance minister.
Meanwhile, the main opposition New Patriotic Party, the NPP, has yet to confirm whether it will participate in the forum. The outcomes of this dialogue are expected to lay the foundation for economic revitalization, ultimately enhancing business opportunities and improving living conditions across the country. For WADR, Nadiri Tete, Accra.
The Malian government has introduced new measures to regulate mining sectors, particularly targeting illegal gold panning. The decision, taken last week during a Council of Ministers meeting, aimed to curb unauthorized mining activities, which have led to frequent mine collapse and dozens of fatalities across the country. Abdullah Hassan reports.
Mali's Ministry of Mines has announced the creation of a rehabilitation and security fund for artisanal mining sites. Authorities say the fund will be used to close and rehabilitate abandoned sites and combat the use of hazardous chemicals in mining operations. Additionally, a separate fund will be established to promote the mining sector, financed through contributions from mining companies. Other funds will be allocated to mining infrastructure, transportation, and geological research, according to government officials. These measures follow a series of deadly accidents at illegal gold mining sites. In mid-February, a mine collapse in Bilali Koto in the Kaya region claimed at least 48 lives, mostly women. A few days earlier, another deadly accident in Kangaba near Bamako also resulted in dozens of casualties. Mali, one of Africa's top gold producers, extracted 72.2 tons of gold last year, with 6 tons coming from artisanal mining. However, informal mining operations remain poorly regulated, exposing workers to unsafe conditions and environmental hazards linked to the use of mercury and cyanide. By tightening regulations, the Malian government hopes to mitigate risks associated with artisanal mining while boosting its contribution to the national economy. In 2024, Mali's gold production fell by 23%, dropping from 66.5 tons in 2023 to 51 tons due to declining yields and disputes between the government and mining companies.
Abdullah Hassan reporting there. As part of his Koshoko tour, former Ivorian President Laurent Gbagbo held a rally this weekend at Angri Stadium in the Kokode district of Abidjan. The leader of the African People's Party, Côte d'Ivoire PPACI, addressed key national issues including the growing land crisis, ownership crisis. The topic has sparked widespread debate after several citizens recently shared videos claiming they were forcefully evicted from their land. Francis Boniface reports.
Speaking before a large crowd of supporters, Laurent Gbagbo urged them to start campaigning and mobilizing for the PPACI. He also took the opportunity to denounce the worsening land tenure crisis, which has become a major issue in recent weeks.
There
are land issues in Côte d'Ivoire today, serious land disputes. You find a piece of land and 5 different people have documents claiming ownership. 3, 4, or even 5 individuals have an ACV or land title for the same land. We must be cautious because land disputes could lead to major problems in this country. Abidjan is already overcrowded. Even the traditional chiefs who came to give their blessings no longer have land. If we want to prevent future conflicts and wars over land, a proper land law must be enacted.
Already in pre-campaigning mode, Gbagbo promised that once in power, he would provide concrete solutions to the land crisis. The former president also expressed solidarity with the residents recently evicted from Ajame village, condemning the government's demolition campaign as inhumane. However, it is important to note that Laurent Gbagbo has not been included on the electoral list, making him ineligible to run or vote in the upcoming election.
Abenade's report from Abidjan and voiced by Francis Boniface.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Gambia's opposition leader, lawyer Ousainou Darboe, has clarified his party, the United Democratic Party's UDP, stance on Gambia's 2024 draft constitution, which is set to be presented in Parliament for the second time later this month. This clarification follows speculation on social media after a meeting between Darboe and President Adama Barrow, facilitated by former ECOWAS Commission President Dr. Mohamed Ibn Chambers. Sankole Janko tells us more in this report.
Speculations had been mounting about a possible shift in Ousainou Darboe's stance, but the opposition leader has now made his position clear. His party only supports the 2020 draft constitution, rejecting the 2024 version outright.
We do not accept any other draft. Those who crafted the 2024 draft constitution, whatever amendments they thought should have been done to the 2020 draft, let them arm themselves with that and make a presentation of those points when the 2020 draft is presented to the National Assembly.
Darboe stressed that the 2020 draft is the version that should be brought before the National Assembly for consideration.
Since my visit to State House, a lot of narratives have been peddled on the social media. I want to make it abundantly clear that the United Democratic Party's position has always been that the 2020 draft constitution, which was the product of broad and deep consultations among Gambians, must be the draft that should be presented to the National Assembly for their approval or disapproval.
The opposition leader further stated that while both he and President Barrow agree that the Gambia needs a new constitution, they remain divided on which draft should be adopted. According to Darboe, this decision is crucial as it will shape the future of the country's governance. He reaffirmed his party's commitment to the 2020 draft, arguing that it best represents the aspirations of the Gambian people. The debate over the new constitution remains a divisive issue, with national attention now centered on the upcoming parliamentary discussions set for March 27. For Newslink West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Sankule Janko reporting from Banjul.
A 5-day capacity building workshop aimed at nurturing the next generation of feminist leaders in West Africa has been wrapped up in Abuja. The event, organized by the West Africa Civil Society Institute, works in partnership with Baobab for Women's Human Rights, provided young women from Ghana, Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria with mentorship, leadership training, and advocacy skills. With support from Ford Foundation and the Open Society Foundation, the workshop focused on tackling patriarchy, systems of oppression, and sustainable activism. WADR's Usma Umar report from Abuja.
The workshop brought together young female participants from Ghana, Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, and Nigeria. It focused on deepening their understanding of feminism, patriarchy, systems of oppression, leadership, and fundraising strategies. Omolara Balogun, who leads policy influencing and advocacy at WAXI, explains why mentorship is crucial in feminist leadership.
These senior colleagues also share their own life trajectory with them, their journey, and now you can agree with me that now we are even more civilized. But most of these women have been working for the past 30, 40 years when women don't even speak at all. So they've shared their life journey with them, they've shared the challenges, and they also understand some of the new challenges of this time. These young ladies have asked critical questions around surviving. They've asked questions around sustainability. They've asked questions around, the role of religion in feminism. So they've learned a lot.
Bumi Tipo Salami, Executive Director of Baobab for Women's Human Rights, highlights how such initiatives tackle key challenges.
Working with these young girls on various issues, from basic understanding of feminism to running organizations, to using the social media to carry out the advocacy, and the passion. The last 5 days, seeing the passion in the room, seeing the commitment. And it's very important for me and for my fellow mentors as older feminists that we hold the hands of these younger women, because it can only get better.
Participants engaged in discussions on the historical evolution of feminism, mentorship, and organizational development, with the hope that these young leaders will take the lessons learned into their communities. Organizers say the impact of this initiative will be seen in the coming years. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
You're still listening to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM, and around the world we are live on wadr.org. Here's a reminder of our top stories. ECOWAS delegation forced to flee Guinea-Bissau amid political tensions. Ghana's National Economic Dialogue begins today with focus on charting a new path for economic sustainability and growth. Malian government tightens mining regulations amid rising risks, and also Laurent Gbagbo rally supporters vows to address land crisis in Côte d'Ivoire. We also have the press review, guest interview, and sports. Stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Let's turn attention to Liberia as the Ministry of Health has inaugurated a new pressure swing absorption (PSA) oxygen plant at the Jackson F. Doe Memorial Referral Hospital in the country. This facility aims to enhance access to medical oxygen for critical care and emergency cases across the region. WAD Out Monrovia correspondent Abraham Parker has details in this report.
The plant, funded by Global Fund, is one of 4 new facilities, each capable of producing 100 cylinders of medical oxygen daily. Dr. Catherine Cooper, Liberia's chief medical officer, emphasized the plant's significance, referencing past health crises like Ebola and COVID-19, which has posed critical gaps in the country's oxygen supply. She noted that before this expansion, Liberia had only 3 operational oxygen plants, producing just 30 to 40 cylinders daily, which are insignificant to meet national needs.
Our strategy is to ensure that oxygen is available in all parts of our country. The Global Fund and other health partners have invested in the building of a lasting health solution in this country.
Also speaking at the ceremony, Manasseh Kassia from the Global Fund praised the government's commitment to health care and emphasized the importance of sustainability and maintenance for the plant's success.
Really thank you, colleague, for your warm welcome, but also for your support to ensure that every single dollar invested in this country will produce the best value for money. A very clear and effective sustainability strategy, only for this plant, but also for all the oxygen unit, production units that have been installed free.
The establishment of the PSA oxygen plant marks a pivotal step forward in Liberia's commitment to universal health coverage and enhanced healthcare service delivery across the nation. For Newslink on WADR, I'm Abraham Parker from Monrovia.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Let's join Usman Umar from Nigeria for the press review.
We begin the day with Daily Trust newspaper, and the Daily Trust is leading with this story. Protest in Jos over killing of truck drivers in Southeast. With 3 riders, one says 20 killed, many vehicles burnt in 1 year. My slain brother left behind 12 children. And the last rider says National Union of Road Transport Workers seeks probe police mom. Other stories on the front page of the Daily Trust says bandits abduct 4 varsity students in Katsina. Bandits abduct 4 varsity students in Katsina. This happened over the weekend. And then, of course, Natasha versus Akpabio. Arewa Consultative Forum demand probe. Senate rules out impeachment. Senator Natasha is a female representative from Kogi State who is accusing the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, of sexually harassing her, and based on her denial of his advances, he has been maltreating her on the floor of the Senate. But of course, the Deputy President of the Senate, Jibrin Barau, over the weekend had come out to say that these are personal, unsubstantiated claims. And of course, he completely ruled out the issue of impeachment. But Arewa Consultative Forum, which is a socio-cultural group of elders in the northern region of the country where the Senator Natasha hails from, are demanding probe into the allegations. And of course, on the story of protesting just over killing of truck drivers, you have a picture of burnt trucks on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper. And Vanguard is leading from this political development from the oil-rich Rivers State in the south region of Nigeria. Supreme Court verdict on Rivers. Anxiety as Fubara begins implementation. It declared that election of local government officials as null and void, and has also reinstated over 20 lawmakers that are loyal to the former governor of Rivers State, who have been trying to impeach the sitting governor, but haven't been allowed to sit. Agrees to conduct fresh local government poll, direct council chairman to hand over to heads of local government administration today, that is Monday. Fubara Wike political class should find middle ground. This is according to South leaders. And this is the much we have for you on today's segment of the press review as I hand you back to the studio.
Thank you very much, Usma Uma from Nigeria, for the press review.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
A guest interview takes us to Ghana, where the two-day National Economic Dialogue has kicked off today in Accra. According to the government, the dialogue is a crucial step in shaping a 4-year fiscal consolidation program aimed at restoring economic stability and driving long-term development. It also aims to examine strategies to encourage private sector-led growth, recognizing that a strong private sector is essential for job creation and economic expansion. Our guest is senior financial lecturer with the University of Cape Coast Business School, Dr. Seiram Kawo, and he speaks about the significance of the dialogue.
When we look at the national economic dialogue that is taking place, it's a laudable idea. We may say that it has not been effective in the past, but that can also be something that we question, because in the past, when we had this national economic dialogue about a decade ago, we came out with our own homegrown policies that was sent to IMF, and that gave us the leeway to get the IMF concessional loan. And when it happened, the government that implemented it could not continue. So there was a change of government. And that actually we saw in the first term of the previous government. They did very well. Now, in the second term of government, they reached a situation where they realized that the economy was not moving on well. And so they decided to introduce some taxes. For every budget to be successful, for any country, the citizens must buy into that particular budget. The citizens must accept the budget as their own, and not as a tool to take the last drop of their pestua from them. And in that vein, the approach being used by the current government, when they are now having economic dialogue before the budget is being read, and they are telling us that whatever that they are going to discuss, the policies that they are going to come out with, they are going to make sure that they implement it.
What are some of the key sectors that you expect more revival to be done? And when they are done strategically, they have the potential of restoring and reviving the dwindled economy?
The first sector I want to look at is the sector of agriculture. If agric is revived, if we now have mechanization of our agric, resources are put into it and they get to the right people. They produce more food. There is demand for food and we don't have to import food and all those things. It will be okay. If we revive our financial sector, make it more vibrant, the fraud issues in the financial sector, we make sure that the right thing is done in the financial sector. Our interest rate, our exchange rate, and the rest will be much better for us. And that will go a long way to reduce the rate of inflation. And once inflation comes down, things will be okay. The other one is infrastructure, road, hospitals, schools.
Within the geopolitical context, if we want to go self-reliance on our resources, how should it be so that we do not look like we want to sideline international bodies who would want to have a say in our affairs?
Looking at the geopolitical environment and the things that we do, there is always the need for us to be diplomatic in the way we do our things. There is no country that is self-sufficient. At least you have a comparative advantage in doing certain things than other countries. So you try to focus on yourself and you try to specialize in those areas that you have comparative advantage over the rest, and make the others understand why you are taking a certain stance. Of course, we are asking for foreign direct investment that will come to us and all those things. We need to make sure that the institutions are strong to make sure that these foreign direct investors that come into the country are doing the right thing, and not that we bring them in and they divert and destroy our society, they destroy our communities, the water bodies and forest reserves, as we are seeing in the case of Galamsey.
And that senior financial lecturer with the University of Cape Coast Business School, Dr. Seiram Kawo. And in sports this afternoon, FIFA and the International Football Association Board have announced significant updates to football's laws of the game for the 2025-2026 season, including adjustment to goalkeeper time limits and introduction of football video support. FIFA highlighted the success of football video support tests of the FIFA Under-20 and Under-17 Women's World Cup. The technology has received very positive coaches. This will be the great step to demonstrate technology and refereeing, he said, adding that FIFA aims to make it more affordable for longer tie games. And in sports, and that's where we end this afternoon's edition of Sports. And we have come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM at Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek for the technical assistance and Umu Danyoko. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, X formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook at WADR English Service. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is our health program, Well Body. I am Christopher Ticho. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.